97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DiCecco.
My first allegiance is what will be best for the Philadelphia Eagles and our fans for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
All right, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast and brought to you locally by Dr. Lyle M. Back from Cosmetic Surgery, Skin Care. Go to ilovelylback.com or call 856-MAKEOVER for Dr. Lyle M. Back, proud sponsor of Football at 4. Andrew DiCecco is in the house. We got a lot of interesting Eagles off-season draft stuff. I want to definitely talk some draft, too, with Andrew, because obviously Andrew is now getting ready to focus on the draft and what's going on there. I know he has his mock draft up at InsideTheBirds.com, so we'll get into that as well and take a look there. But I guess we'll start. The first thing we got to look at is the most recent, the newest, the freshest information, Andrew, on this Carson Wentz stuff, and that is the fact that, you know, the Bears look like they are the team in play now, and I guess some reports are suggesting the Bears want to make a trade. They just want to find out now if Carson Wentz wants to go there or not. But what are we thinking about the Bears being the front runner possibly now for Carson Wentz?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Chicago is going to be the destination for him, but the Eagles really need to pull the trigger on whatever team's willing to offer the most. They can't really be concerned with whether or not Carson Wentz wants to go there or not. Obviously, Chicago has their concerns, and they want to make sure. But, I mean, if you're Carson Wentz, the offensive line it's all right. I mean, it's a little bit better than – there's some question marks there. I mean, David Montgomery's there. The receiving core isn't as proficient as you'd like. I mean, Alvin Robinson's probably going to leave via free agency. You have Anthony Miller and Darnold Mooney there, but I mean, offensively, they have just as many question marks as the Eagles, if not more. So, I mean, I would think that he would want a fresh start. It's got to be, you know, tiring for him to. I know he hasn't said anything, but you're constantly hearing your name in the media, and just not knowing where you're going to be, the unsettling aspect of it. I think he should just want to move on and just go with Chicago if that's what the team that's offering the most, and you know, just move forward.
Let me ask you this possible, okay, so there's a lot of conversation right now, Andrew, about who has the leverage and how Howie Roseman's playing this. If you're Howie Roseman and the two teams in play, one is Chicago and the other is Indianapolis potentially, those two teams don't really have a quarterback right now. So do you have the leverage over them knowing that, hey, you know, you're Ryan Pace. You need to win, man. You want to go into another season with Nick Foles, have fun. But if you want to up your ante, I got a guy for you. If you are Indianapolis and you have Jacoby Brissett or Easton, hey, you want to go into a season with those guys? And if you do, that's great. But if you want to up your ante, I got a guy for you. Does Howie Roseman, does he actually have the leverage here? And we're not kind of acknowledging that because, you know, people want Wentz gone. They're sick of this whole conversation.
Well, I think Howie may have leverage over the Chicago Bears, not the Colts, because let's not forget the Colts made the playoffs last year. Jacoby Brissett has proven that he can be an adequate starter. He had a couple years ago, obviously, he took the reins there. I mean, I think Chicago, yes, they don't have a lot of options there. Mitchell Trubisky, Nick Foles, they've been given ample opportunities to win the job. Neither one of those guys have really stood out. I mean, to an extent, I guess you could say the Chicago Bears are kind of at the Eagles' mercy there. But I mean, they can also, if they could get impatient and move on to a guy like a Derek Carr, perhaps, or look elsewhere because there's going to be other options. I mean, you can't wait around for Carson Wentz forever, and you certainly don't want a guy who you're trying to acquire that doesn't want to be there, or you're uncertain if he wants to be there.
There are so many different stories and reports out there, obviously, but we've seen hypotheticals with the Wentz and Ertz package. But there was also one that threw Andre Dillard's name out there, too. Would that surprise you if they moved on from Dillard, if that's what it took to move on from Wentz, to throw Dillard in there? Is that an obvious move to do? How do you look at that when you hear the name Dillard in some of these packages as well?
Well, Hunter, it's somewhat obvious because Andre Dillard, looking at the depth chart, I'm not really sure where he fits. I mean, I think that he would be best served competing with Jordan Mailata this summer for the left tackle spot, but possibly even being looked at as a guard, and it certainly can't hurt to have the depth. I think him being there, even from a depth purpose, we've seen how the line can be ravaged by injuries and really determine the season in some regards. So, I mean, if I'm the Eagles, I'm not offering up Andre Dillard if I don't have to. But, I mean, if it's going to sweeten the deal, I mean, why not? But I don't know, with the amount of picks that they have and the lack of money that they have to spend on offensive line, I think that they do have some guys there that they can at least use for depth. I mean, I'm not sure that I would want to throw him in, but that would be really surprising if they did.
Yeah, I know, and there was a report, it was Sports Illustrated, essentially said Wentz and Ertz, because the Colts could have some interest there. Another team that was in play was Seattle, because they lost Olsen. You know, last year they went down the route of bringing in that veteran guy. Do you think Ertz, because he mentions in the article that he doesn't think Ertz would fetch more than a fourth-round pick?
Yeah, I mean, I would say third at the most. Fourth is most realistic.
So not a big return for Ertz. Not a big return for Ertz. But what if you package Wentz and Ertz together? Do you think that adds any value to the package?
Yeah, it does. I mean, Ertz on his own, obviously you're getting an older player on the decline, but his success with Wentz, there's documented history there. That's his go-to guy. You get a familiar piece around Wentz wherever he goes. He's going to be an unfamiliar situation, but you bring a guy like Zach Ertz, who he's had a lot of success with. I do think that that's going to add stability to their offense wherever he goes, and make him, it's a security blanket really for him. So I think that it would yield the Eagles. It would yield the most in return if you're able to package those two guys.
A couple weeks back, we were hearing from national big-time reporters saying it's close, and it's going to happen soon. And then now, here we are, where it seems like there's no communication really happening, and there's not that much information out there. Does that tell you something, as if maybe there was something that was really that significantly close, and then it fell off? Or do you think that that's just part of the process of the cat and mouse game?
Yeah, when you're talking about a trade of this magnitude, unfortunately, I think it has to do. It's a product of the cat and mouse game. I do think that they were offered something fairly substantial, in my opinion, and Howie wanted to wait out for something greater, and that never really transpired. Teams get or the team got cold feet, whatever it was, and then then you kind of got to start from scratch and really start to. Once the pieces start to fall around and teams start to identify they're going to go elsewhere and things like that, you have to kind of really reevaluate where you're at and what you're realistically going to yield from a player coming off a bad season amid all these reports coming out about him. There's a little bit more certainty with a guy like Matthew Stafford, who's perennially in the top 10, 12 quarterbacks every year and plays at a high level. That's why he was able to yield what he did. But, I mean, with a player like Carson Wentz, you've seen the highs and you've seen the lows, and I think a team's going to be a little hesitant to offer up, some premier draft picks and possibly a player. So I think that Howie Roseman needs to look at it realistically and take what he can get at this point, because it's like I said last week, they really need to part ways here and just turn the page. I was
going to say, do you think teams would buy Roseman saying, look, we don't have to trade him, we'll keep him? I mean, he is under contract.
Yeah, he's under contract, but I don't buy it, given everything that's kind of manifested over the past, ever since he got benched. I mean, all these reports that come out. You haven't heard from Carson. The receivers are going to be working out with Jalen Hurts now. I mean, it just seems like you've reached a point of no return, and I don't know how he would even enter the locker room, given everything that's kind of happened. I think teams know that. I think they're well aware of that. If your quarterback and your general manager aren't on speaking terms, I'm sorry, that's dysfunctional, and I can't continue. Teams, like I said, teams know all this, and I think that they know that it's sooner or later he's going to shake free. It's just a matter of when and where are they willing to give up.
Yeah, a lot of what-ifs right now. But let's say if Sam Darnold went for a first-round pick, we talk about Indianapolis or Chicago with that 21st overall pick or so. If Sam Darnold goes for that price tag, does that hurt Wentz? Does that help Wentz, or does it kind of stay the same?
I mean, I guess it would be right around this.
Who would you rather have? Who would you rather have?
Right now, I mean, I would like to see what Sam Darnold could do in another situation, to be honest with you. I mean, I've seen Sam Darnold. I've seen him play. His play has been sporadic. Both players, don't get me wrong, they have question marks. You've seen Wentz play at a high level, but you know what you're getting in Sam Darnold. You're not getting any baggage, any potential baggage. He wants to be coached. He's going to accept the coaching. He's moldable is basically the selling point with him. He's young and he's moldable. And I think if you get him in a different system, you might be able to play to his strengths and see what he's really all about. Surround him with weapons, get him with a functional coaching staff, unlike the Adam Gase debacle there with the Jets. And I think that there's something there with Darnold. I don't know if he'll ever be what was billed at a few years ago, but I mean, I think that there's a little bit more stability with a player like that who is willing to welcome any kind of coaching and just continue to learn without any pushback.
It's Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Over at Inside the Birds right now, Andrew has his Eagles mock draft 1.0 up, and at number 6, you're going Jamar Chase. Now, Chase has been in some. Other people, we talked over different mock drafts, but Chase would be, I guess, your top wide receiver on the board?
Yeah, and to me, it just makes the most sense to go with a player who is a little bit more versatile. He can line up at all the receiver positions. He's physical after the catch. You heard Nick Sirianni's press conference. He likes to get guys the ball within 5 to 10 yards of the line of scrimmage and let them kind of do some damage. That's really right in Jamar Chase's wheelhouse. And I think if you're gonna turn the page from the Carson Wentz era and turn the reins over to Jalen Hurts, you gotta do it right and build the foundation, and don't make the same mistakes that you made with the previous quarterback. Start giving him weapons that he can use to be successful. And if it doesn't work out, then you can point to the quarterback, but don't let it be because of lack of resources.
Let me ask you a couple things then in that vein. You write in this piece, if Sewell was at 6, let's say he was on the board, you would go with the tackle over Chase?
Yeah, I mean, if Sewell is there, you're going with the tackle. That's a blue chip player. He shouldn't fall that far, and you could stick him there, and he's going to be your franchise tackle for the next 12 years and have some all pros in his future. And I make that pick and don't even question it, because it's so hard to find a franchise left tackle, a blindside protector. He's a freakish athlete. Just an immense talent. And, like I said, the game's won on the offensive line, the defensive line. So if you can fortify that and add some stability there, I think you do that.
Okay.
I don't think twice.
Now, there was a recent mock draft out there that had the Eagles trading up to the 3rd pick to go with Justin Fields. Would you be anti that?
Yeah, because there's many other pressing needs on the roster, and you really don't know what you have with Jalen Hurts without giving him a full offseason with the new coaching staff. Let him build that, camaraderie with the group of offensive skill players that he has, and then be able to let him play a full season before you make any assumptions or determinations on what he is as a player. I think that would be really premature to turn the page on him and move on. So I think that given all the holes that are permeating the roster, I think you have to look elsewhere besides quarterback.
To grab the left tackle, going back to the possibility of doing that at 6, he'd have to slip past Cincinnati, and they obviously want to help out Joe Burrow as much as possible. But could you see a scenario where maybe going out and getting that wide receiver to help Joe Burrow, a Chase, as you mentioned, maybe the Eagles snagging, could you see that being a possibility, or do you really believe that the left tackle is the obvious for Cincinnati?
Yeah, you would think that left tackle would be the obvious for Cincinnati, and I actually wrote this here. I said if he manages to slip past the Bengals, Sewell, that is, then I think that he makes it to 6. But I have so there's something that made me think that the Bengals are going to have a hard time passing up a skill player to pair with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and get those young pieces around Joe Burrow. But I mean, I do think that there's a small chance that Sewell makes it past there, and the Bengals, kind of make a surprising pick and go wide receiver there.
All right. Football 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Off-season mode, draft, free agency, Carson Wentz watch continues. Andrew DiCecco, of course, at DiCecco NFL. You can check him out on Twitter. And, of course, as the off-season continues, we will have more on this draft. His mock draft is up at InsideTheBirds.com. It's an all-Eagles mock draft, so check out who he has in round 2 through 7, and check that out at InsideTheBirds.com. Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which now drops Mondays and Thursdays at 6 a.m. in the off-season. And tomorrow, Football at 4, Jeff Mosher's back. Andrew's here on Thursday. Adam Kaplan on Friday. Andrew, thank you, my friend.
You got it, guys. Take care.
And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.